Whew. Morning, Trainiacs. That was a 88-minute run going a little bit over 17 kilometers. Cruisy kind of long run. One thing that I'm getting reminded about a lot as new athletes who don't have a history in swimming, biking, or running have a really tough time with is running at a low heart rate. And that's the key to triathlon. It's not about how fast you can go at the top, it's about how fast you can go while keeping your heart rate really low. And everyone, when they get into triathlon, struggles with that key thing. So what we're gonna go through is a simple 3-step process to instantly bring that heart rate down so that you can run faster with it feeling easier, avoid injury, and enjoy this a lot more. Woo! Trainiacs! We are back in the pain cave shooting videos. It's nice to have the studio back. All right, so as athletes start joining teamtrainiac.com, or as you just start listening to me talk about zone 2 training, low heart rate run training, a lot of you might be starting it and going, holy smokes, I cannot bring my heart rate down. That's very normal. The combined force of us pounding on the ground with our body weight results in load of about 7 to 9 times our body weight. This is an enormous load on our body structure to end up keeping it upright when we're running. So just naturally, our heart rate shoots through the roof a lot more than when we're in the pool or when we're on the bike. But it is critical to do this running. So how do you actually end up doing it? Well, I'm gonna give you 3 steps to figuring out how to gradually bring your heart rate down here. First, why is it so important? It's critical to make ourselves faster if that's what you want to do, or just get through your race with more of an enjoyment by having a faster bottom end. It is not done by increasing your top end of speed. It's by taking that floor of what a comfortable, easy pace is and bringing that up. Why is that? A few reasons. Number one, our top end just isn't sustainable. Our top end is our top end because it's how fast we can go for a short period of time. We can't do it much more than a few minutes. And yes, while top end really fast HIIT workouts do end up helping our overall endurance, it's not where we're racing. We don't race at that fast speed, and we have to train like we race. We race, even if it's a sprint distance race. If you check a Garmin watch or any sort of fitness tracking watch that after a run, it says what the load is on your aerobic system, your low end, versus your anaerobic system, your top end, it's usually at least 96% aerobic, not anaerobic, not our top end. So even our fast runs are using that low end zone 1-2 system. So we have to train that. And then finally, triathlon is not about who goes the fastest. It's not a 100-meter dash. It is about who slows down the least. And the way that you do that is by getting your slow pace fast enough so that you can do it in a race and just chug out throughout the 5K, the 10K, the 21.1K, the 42.2K without slowing down. But you're still going fast enough that you're passing lots of people. And that is how you're successful in triathlon. So let's get into these 3 steps of how to start from wherever you are, even if you have no history of triathlon, swim, bike, or run training at all, to being able to run comfortably in whatever distance triathlon you want. Step 1 is to figure out what your heart rate ceiling is. Personally, I like the Maffetone method of heart rate ceiling creation, and you can get that by going to triathlontaren.com/HR training. And what you do is you put in your age, and then you answer some yes or no questions, and this starts creating your custom top end of zone 2. But that's not enough. While it is somewhat accurate at figuring out your top end of zone 2, which is your roughly aerobic threshold, they're not exactly right. There was once a time that I had my heart rate ceiling calculated with the Maffetone method at around 142 beats per minute. I went into the lab and it was actually calculated at 137 beats per minute. The consequence of this could actually be very huge. What if I had run at 139 beats per minute? You might have said, well, Taren, that's just 2 beats per minute, not a big deal. But those 2 beats a minute of just dipping over the aerobic threshold is very, very taxing on the body. So it leads to overtraining, and so take that calculation from triathlontaren.com/HR training and then err on the side of caution. Run most of your runs well away from that heart rate ceiling. We're talking 5 to 10 beats per minute. And you might be saying, well, am I going to get any faster? Yes. Running frequently gets you faster, and still being in that aerobic zone, even though it's maybe zone 1, maybe a ways away from the top of your zone 2, you're frequently hitting that aerobic fitness, and it's still going to have the effect of building your endurance and building your fitness. Whereas if you were even just 2 beats over that aerobic threshold because you decided to ride the lightning a little bit, well, you are going to lead to overtraining. So you've got your heart rate ceiling. What do you do next? Step 2 is to run a lot. Now, back before 2018, I was only running twice a week. I had some internal issues that were making running really uncomfortable for me during the run and for the couple of days after. So I ran the minimum amount, which was about 2 runs per week. And this got me through some races, and I did some okay runs because I knew which those 2 runs were supposed to be, but it wasn't really enough to make a huge difference in my run performance. The reason for that is that not all running is created equal. In 2019, I went into a lab and I did some run testing, and I found out from my coach, Dr. Dan Plews, that my efficiency was so bad that at a 5 minute per kilometer pace, which is fairly pedestrian, it's not too hard, I was working as hard as Dan Plews, pro athlete, one of the greatest triathletes of all time, probably like top 30-ish. His comparable pace was faster than a 3 minute kilometer. He was going like all out. So I was burning through a ton of energy. Now, some run coaches might lead you to believe that just with changing your form and altering this or that, you're going to become a more efficient runner. But what is actually shown to be the case is that you will develop your best, most efficient stride just by running frequently. And that even means if you're running 4 or 5 times a week and only one of those runs are long and the rest are 10 to 20 minutes, that running frequency is going to allow your body to figure out how to run more efficiently. So what's going to happen is you are going to be able to use less energy to run, which is naturally going to bring your heart rate down because you're not working so hard. But that's only if you're really, really focused on improving your run. If you're just looking to finish 2 runs a week and the right 2 runs a week, probably enough. So let's say you know what heart rate to run at. You've decided how much you're going to run. Well, how do you actually start bringing your heart rate down? That's step 3. And that's where the art of understanding how to essentially not lose your mind with this low heart rate training comes in. And there are some tricks that I recommend that allow you to run more easily, more frequently, without just slowing down to a shuffle and feeling like you're not doing anything. For starters, on your low heart rate runs, your heart rate ceiling is your heart rate ceiling. You are going to run under that no matter what it takes. This means if you are running into the wind, if you're running uphill, if you're running in heat, if you're running on a treadmill where there isn't a lot of air circulation, if you are running after travel, if you're running a little bit sick, if you are running a little bit tired, if you're running a little bit fatigued because training is at a high level, your heart rate ceiling is your heart rate ceiling. So you're gonna have to sometimes run slow, but here's how you can make that less monotonous. First, you can run early in the morning when it's cold. Being cool will bring your heart rate down, allowing you to run a little bit easier. Number 2, you can go on hills or hikes where going slow is fun. If you're on a trail, if you're on a hill and you end up walking, but your heart rate is still nice and high, right around where you want to be, that's okay. That's good training. That's time on your feet. That is zone 2 training time. Your body doesn't know pace. Your body knows the physiology of how hard we're working by our heart rate. So I find trails and hikes immensely fun, and you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I'm only walking down the sidewalk. No, you're walking on hills and trails, or you're shuffling on hills and trails, still plenty of fun and a great workout. In addition to that, you have the added benefit of it being essentially a strength-focused workout, strength training for running. Next, a trick that I like to use that I actually used in 2019 Challenge Roth is when my heart rate started creeping up, I started to get control of my breathing. And one thing that I did was deep and controlled belly breaths. Breathing up here, short and shallow, shoots your heart rate up, but having a deep, controlled belly breath can bring your heart rate down by, in my experience, as much as 10 beats per minute. So having control of that controlled, deep belly breath can bring your heart rate down, allowing you to still run. Next, run at your personal smoothest cadence. There's a lot of talk of your cadence being high, like 180, 185, your steps per minute being pushed right up there, and that's going to be your way to being most efficient. In my opinion, once you get over 165 steps per minute, you're okay. If you want to improve your cadence, do that in the speed workouts, do that in the workouts where you have no problem having a higher heart rate. Because it's more of a speed-focused workout, work on that fast turnover, and that will help your normal everyday cadence at the low heart rate just gradually come up on its own. Next, you can run more frequently but shorter to avoid cardiac drift. Your heart rate in the course of a run will gradually increase over the course of 60 to 90 minutes, even at the same pace. So by the end of a 60 to 90 minute run, your heart rate will be quite high, making it very difficult to keep your heart rate low. So like I said, instead you can run frequently throughout the week for shorter bursts so that your heart rate only has a smaller amount to climb. Double bonus. Next, if you are doing one of those long endurance days where you have no choice but to let cardiac drift happen because you're doing a long run and you have to be on your feet for a long period of time, you can make those endurance runs a progression run where you gradually increase your speed so that at the end of the run, it's almost like a tempo pace. So this is a long tempo run, and by that time, your cardiac drift doesn't matter because you're running long. Be careful with this because that's all part of a proper triathlon training program. Finally, be patient. I talked about this one day on my Instagram channel and I said, wait 3 to 6 months for this to happen. And I had some comments from people saying, 3 months? Are you kidding me? I can't wait that long. Look, if 3 months is not a quick enough time for you to see progress, you're in the wrong sport. People end up swimming for years to maybe get a second faster in a time trial. Bike strength. You talk about old man bike strength out there in hills and the wind. That's because those old men have ridden for decades. Running is the same. Expect it to take a long time. If anything that is done really fast and showing you very quick improvements in triathlon is likely setting you up for illness, injury, overtraining. It's not sustainable, and it is not the way to train in such a way that you're risking your livelihood, your health for a quick fix. Quick fixes don't exist. Like I said, the start of how you figure this out is by figuring out your heart rate, and you can get that done at triathlontaren.com/HR training. And in that, I talk about how to balance your long runs versus your hard runs. How, spoiler alert, you actually shouldn't really use heart rate for the high intensity stuff and why that is. And that's all free. You just go to triathlontaren.com/HR training and you put in your email address, you get it for free. And if you are a new triathlete and you aren't yet subscribed and you need help getting to your race, figuring out how to create a triathlon training plan, we create videos here weekly. Hit the subscribe button below. Later, Trainiacs.